evaluated or audited. Naku, hindi na record. Anyway, so we're into that stage already. Medyo mature na tayo in that process. That is why all of you are here with us, because you have gone through our program registration process. So you are institutions that are implementing and offering TVET programs that were registered with TESDA. So okay na tayo doon. We are hoping and we are assuming that you are that you are delivering quality programs because of the process you went through. Mahirap na proseso yung pagre-register ng programs. You had to go through all the nitty-gritties. You have to have all the required tools, equipment, facilities, supplies and materials. If it is with training regulations, they are defined in our training regulations. And if not, then we rely on the industry requirements, because the requirement for registering a non-TR or an NTR is that it is in demand in your area. It is in demand by the industry. There are employment opportunities for the program, and so you would depend on the industry requirements to offer your program. And that is what our UTPRAS focals and our provincial and regional offices would look for in registering your programs. Okay, so it deals with process, and we are into that. TESDA is into processes. And these are quality assured because we have also the ISO certification. We are encouraging all the other TVET institutions to make sure that you have a quality management system in place. That is what we are looking for now in the STAR program, or our system for TVET accreditation and recognition program. Okay, the next step in the Hong Kong framework is the quality enhancement. And this is now what differentiates it from quality assurance because of the purpose of the program. We have to have more, it's not only on the profit that you will get, it's not only on just complying with TESDA's requirements. We don't just copy the curriculum. Before we had exemplar for the CBC, so you don't just copy it just for complying with TESDA requirements. And then what? After you have submitted the competency-based curriculum, do you follow it? So we'd like you now, this is our first topic, ating competency-based curriculum development process. And most especially, we have now another requirement, that is the integration of the 21st century skills. So it's the purpose of the program that is now being looked into. Why the curriculum? Why the 21st century skills? So we have to understand that more and deeper, appreciate what it is for. It is not just merely complying with the TESDA requirement, but it's for you to understand and appreciate why this is a requirement. Okay, so that's why the first topic really is on the competency-based curriculum, because that is the core of our TVET programs. We have an objective, we have a goal to accomplish, and that is also a purpose of our quality TVET programs on the employability of our graduates. So how will our graduates be employable if the program itself does not meet the requirements of our clients? That is the industry, or even if it's for self-employment, would they have the required, would they have the necessary skills and competencies for them to start their own business or their own livelihood for their family or for their community. And once we've been through all this, then we would have gained the quality culture that we want to achieve in the Philippine TVET sector. Meron pa tong isa kasi yung quality culture, what is the proof or what is the evidence when we have achieved the quality culture? When quality is no longer required because quality is our way of life. So hindi na maraming requirements na hinihingi because you know already, you've been practicing it and you cannot get away from it anymore because that is what we feel is necessary for us to deliver these quality TVET programs. So yan lang, but let me just, meron pa lang akong isang slide for this one. So yung quality assurance, as I mentioned already, is the process on program registration and accreditation. We're specifically talking about program registration and accreditation. So may iba pa tayong processes, yung assessment and certification, standards development, CATS development, but we are focusing on our process, major process, program registration, accreditation. As I mentioned, the purpose, which is now quality enhancement, we have to go deeper. We have to be more focused on the purpose. So purpose-driven life, may mga ganyan, di ba? So this is a purpose-driven TVET. What is the meaning of all the requirements? Why is it important for us as an institution? Why is it important for our clients, those who are our trainee scholars and those who graduate? When we have achieved like a high employment rate, we're happy about it. Diba? We're already in the 70+%, but we wanted more. We have to make sure that all our graduates get employment or jobs that are fit to their programs, to the curriculum that they have been through in the conduct of the TVET program. So dapat yung mga institutions, ganun din yung purpose ninyo. I'm sure all of you would have that purpose. That's why you have set up your institutions. You have invested a lot on your institutions because you want to help the Filipino people, diba? Deliver their, acquire their skills that they can use after, and they can use to achieve a quality life for their families, for themselves and for their families. So yun lang yung dapat nating isipin palagi as an institution. Well, some of you, of course, you need to earn from your investment, but if only our main purpose is really driven by what is supposed to be the purpose of TVET, then you would also, that other things will follow. Of course, kung maganda yung training program nyo, kasi maraming industries na kumukuha sa graduates nyo, mas marami kayong magiging estudyante, mas marami kayong enrollment, mas marami ang tuition fees, or if you are under scholarship, limited lang yan. So don't rely on our scholarship. Ang magaling talagang program, ang magaling na institution, even without the scholarship, ay may mga papasok at papasok, mag-enroll sa program ninyo. So I think that is the purpose. So that is the purpose of our quality TVET enhancement session. That is why we're holding this. This is the first, and there will be others that will be shared with you. So isa-isahin lang muna natin one topic at a time so that we will really deepen our understanding and our appreciation. So at this point, I thank already our resource person, the executive director of the NITSD, for giving his time to this and sharing their expertise in the NITSD, so that all of us will be clarified and be enlightened on our competency-based curriculum with the integration of the 21st century skills. So I hope nakapasok si Director Dave. Thank you very much, and I hope that you will really learn from this session. This is the first of a series. So good luck to Sheila and her team. Nagkaroon na tayo ng mga challenges earlier. So let's deal with it as it comes along. So thank you again and good afternoon to all.
Thank you, ED Patty, for giving us an overview of today's session and the rationale for this enhancement session. To all of us who are here, are we now ready to listen and learn more? Because at this point, we will now proceed to the gist of this enhancement session. Our Executive Director of the National Institute for Technical Education and Skills Development, or NITESD, is a licensed chemical engineer and an experienced TechVoc trainer, administrator, and director. He has anchored his professional career in technical education and skills development as the Executive Director of the National Institute for Technical Education and Skills Development of TESDA. He is tasked to help reposition technical vocational education and training in the context of the Fourth Industrial Revolution and promote its importance as a critical sector for education, social, and economic development. He is challenged to help the agency make TVET agile, flexible, and responsive amidst the challenge of the digital and the rapidly evolving world of work. Ladies and gentlemen, to discuss the development of a competency-based curriculum with integration of 21st century, let us welcome the Executive Director of NITESD, Executive Director Dave B. Bongalion. A warm of applause, please. Good afternoon, sir.
Hindi yata siya na-unmute, Joseph.
Ma'am, naka-unmute po.
Walang sound. Wala kang sound, Director Dave.
Sir Dave.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay na, okay.
Hello.
Okay na po, sir.
Hello.
Okay na.
Okay na. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Joseph. Thank you for the generous introduction. I hope I can give justice to that introduction with my discussion. And of course, to our DDG Bertis, who is not here, DDG for Operations, and of course to the Executive Director of Certification Office, and to all the participants, good afternoon. In advance, I would like to congratulate Director Patty of the Certification Office for sustaining this very important endeavor that now advocates quality in the delivery of TVET in all areas, including in the development processes. I was just listening and wow, what a word, which should be a byword in the TVET community. Quality control, quality enhancement, ano pa yung isa, quality culture, and of course, quality in general. And indeed, this should be our competitive edge to all of us, particularly you in the private and even in the public sector. This must be our competitive edge in a neutral market, particularly in the TVET environment. Okay, so again, congratulations. Actually, I was just looking into what will I be discussing, because I look at the profile of the participants, and it's a mix of TESDA officials and test officials, and also private and public TBIs. If I will be discussing of the processes, then this might be boring to our TESDA officials, because our expectation is they must now be experts in curriculum development. And if I'll be discussing of the hand-holding activity that the executive offices just is continually doing in support to our regional operations, then this will be not relevant to our private and public TBIs. So let me just start my discussion on the foundation of curriculum development. And for those who actually have seen or participated in the discussions of this topic, then it will just be a review on your part. Okay. I have with me actually Miss Agnes. Miss Agnes, are you there? I have with me the Chief of the Curriculum Training Aid Development Division, will of course respond should there be technical questions. But if there are some questions on processes, we are happy that we have with us our provincial directors, our OD chiefs, and the RO and PO UTPRAS, because they will be the one to respond to your questions. If a private TBI or public TBI raises a question and geographically you are in, for example, in Region 1, then I think the right person to respond should be the TESDA official from Region 1. Okay, so that would now be our process. So let me just allow me to share my presentation. I think this is the one. I just hope so. I have a problem with my connection, I think. Okay. Yeah, is my presentation already on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, I think there's a problem with my connection here. Okay, so we just titled our presentation, The Development of Competency-Based Curriculum. And then the innovation here is with STEM and the 21st century skills. I have heard Director Patty mentioned of the importance of curriculum. Yes, indeed, we agree, because curriculum, to all our private and public TBIs, I think you will agree with me that the curriculum is the heart of training delivery. While the hands are, of course, the moving parts will be our trainers, which is also one of the most important element in a quality debate delivery. And of course, the head is our administrators, our administrators, the management actually. But the curriculum is the heart of our delivery, because I think you all agree with us that there is the saying of the garbage in, garbage out. So yun po yung, that's how I would like to interpret or receive the message of Director Patty just a while ago about curriculum. Okay, so just a review. Okay, I say it is the heart because it all contains the module, which describes the learning experiences or learning a learner undergoes, the activity, the content, the learning activities, and everything. It generally includes learning outcomes, contents, conditions, methodologies, and assessment method. It specifies the outcomes. Okay, this is what makes our curriculum competency-based, because we are after the outcome, which are consistent with the requirements of the workplace as defined in the TR or based on industry community consultations, okay, and supported by demand or employability for the area-based demand-driven programs. So That is how important curriculum is. And just to compare, what is the difference of competency standards and curriculum? In simple terms, well, the competency standards describes the work that is performed. So when a person undergoes competency standards and is certified, it means that that person passed the standard of the occupation or the work. While curriculum describes the training that a person needs to take in order to perform the work established in competency standards. So that's just the difference. So the reference of curriculum is the competency standards as far as TVET is concerned. So what is the relationship? Okay, this is again a review. Hindi ko na patatagalin ito. Ito ay review lang. So just to show to you that this is how competency-based curriculum of TVET relates to the competency standards. So napakadaling gumawa ng curriculum. Ang sige, mamaya ko nadagdagan ng mga adlib dyan. The usual practice that we are doing, that's the reason why we don't actually encourage now developing curriculum exemplars. What we want is our institution should have the capacity to develop their own curriculum. Okay, so looking at the two, again, I think you all know, as I've said, it's a review. So if you have a competency standards, the reference for what is the level and the title of the module, it refers to the unit of competencies, and the module descriptor will be taken from the unit descriptor, and so forth and so on. I will not discuss this one because you all, I think, a doctor, a master of this diagram. Teka, pero hindi, ayan. Okay, again, and so with this one, it's just a rediagramming of that figure, which shows the comparison of the relationship of a training regulation with that competency standards. As I've mentioned earlier, the reference or the basis of developing a competency-based curriculum is always the competency standards. And these competency standards is part of the training regulation. So you all know that we have 4 parts of the training regulation. Ito, pang taga-test na po ito. Okay, so the first part is qualification descriptor. The second part is the competency standards. The third is the training arrangement. And the fourth is the competency assessment arrangement. Okay, so let me just show this diagram, which means that there are 3 situations as far as competency standards is concerned. Okay. Well, we all know it has always been, if you have been participating in the hand-holding activity, but I think this is for TESDA, of the central office to the regions. And in some conferences or forums, it has always been promoted that the basis of identifying a program, a TVET program for an institution to offer, or for institution to determine or identify which programs are to offer, it should be based on the skills priorities. And these skills priorities are what we call the demand side, from the demand side. Okay. And when we say area-based demand-driven, meaning it may not be nationally a demand, it's not a demand nationally, but it can be a regional demand. It can be a provincial demand. In the provincial demand, we have the provincial skills priorities. In the region, we have the regional skills priorities and the national skills priorities. We have some other sources, the labor management, market information, and we have also the direct demand of partner companies. Okay. But the only message here is we do not offer programs just for offering programs, because at the end, the impact of TVET programs must be the employment of its outputs or its graduates. Okay. So So nandito po ito. We have the area-based demand. So this is the demand. This is the labor market actually. Okay, the labor market. Now, we have our training regulations. These are nationally promulgated at the TESDA board. So with what we call Tibet programs with training regulations, Tibet qualifications with training regulations. But there are cases where we have actually nationally developed competency standards, but we don't have yet, they are not yet promulgated into a training regulation. And the other situation is there is no training regulation and there is no competency standards. So ito ang sinasabi nating NTR programs, that it was offered because it is an identified demand within the province only or the region only. Okay. So how is competency-based curriculum developed out of a TR with training regulation? So napakadali po yon. Sinabi natin kanina, pag may TR, madali lang yon. If I may go back to my other slide, sabi natin napakadali. Kasi kung may TR ka, yung unit of competencies mo, yun na ang modules of yun na ang module titles mo, diba? Yung elements mo, siya na yung learning outcomes mo. Okay? So ito yung okay, ayoko nang bumalik doon. So napakadaling gumawa. Now, the first process of course of competency-based curriculum development is analysis. Okay, later on we have the 4 major process, which is analysis of the competency standards. And out of that, we will now be developing. This is we are emphasizing now this one, which is a new tool. Not actually not a new tool, because if you will read the training regulation, it's actually in the training regulation, the use of contextual learning matrix in order to integrate what you want to integrate. Okay. Now, this is what we are now referring to the 21st century skills, the STEM skills, the green skills. Okay. You can all integrate this one with the use of contextual learning matrix. So to take note of the word contextual. Okay. So we now you prepare the modules of instruction and then you validate this with industry experts. Who should develop the curriculum? There should be a curriculum team in every institution, and these are the process expert, meaning ito yung mga dinevelop natin, na-develop yung na facilitator, okay, yung handhold na facilitator, okay, or these are also your curriculum developers who completed the curriculum competency-based curriculum course under TM2. And a subject matter expert, and the other one is an industry expert. Why do we need the industry expert when it is only already the industry that prepared the competency standards? Well, we need still the industry expert to validate whether the tools that are in the curriculum conforms with that of the TR, and also some industry terminologies, and also to look into the process. Okay, yun yung importance of the participation of industry expert. So out of this one, the result of this one is okay, it can be a CBC exemplar. Okay. When we say CBC exemplar, these are developed at the central office, particularly at our office, at the division of Miss Agnes, the curriculum the curriculum training aid development division. So pag may TR siya, ang curriculum na na-develop is the exemplar, meaning it is a minimum a curriculum with minimum reference, minimum requirements, I mean, and this can now be a national reference among our private and public TBIs. Now, what about if there is no TR but there is a nationally approved competency standards? Okay, same we proceed to the competency-based curriculum development. The difference here is you have to formulate a learning outcome because in the competency standards, what we have there is the learning elements. You have now to formulate the learning outcome. Okay. Now we have some elements turned into modules. Okay. We have the units. We have the units of competencies turned into modules. It can based on the analysis of the curriculum developers, this can a unit of competency, two units of unit of competency can be an standalone module. It can also happen that the one unit of competency can result to two modules, or two units of competency can result to one module. Okay. And the elements of this are the learning outcomes. You have to formulate your learning outcomes. You have then develop the CLM, prepare modules of instruction, and the course type. So makikita nyo, parehas lang yung, ang nadagdag lang dito is the formulation of learning outcomes. Now, how about for NTR programs? Or these are new programs identified only as a demand in a specific or particular area. It does not have a competency standards. So the first thing is to develop a competency standards. Hence, we have now the area-based demand-driven capability and capacity building. We have developed the capacity of the regional offices and the regional offices. They have to multiply among the provincial offices. And should our private and public TBIs now want to develop their curriculum, they will be assisted by our regional office in the development of a competency standards for that. Because you cannot go directly to, as far as Tibet is concerned, we cannot go directly to curriculum because we have to identify the different tasks or duties of an occupation. Okay, if you have been undergoing the DACUM process, but we call it now in our process the functional matrix process. Okay? Parehas lang naman din yon. So you have some analysis to do. So, but our regional offices now are capacitated to do that. Okay? So this area-based demand-driven capacity building was pursued to facilitate development rather than always initiated at the central office matagal po. So the connection between our the Tibet clients, meaning our TBIs, nandun na agad. Okay, so makikita nyo lang yung diferensya. Ito. So ito yung bagong gagawin. No, but our topic here is discussion is the developed by the institution of course, it's an institution's package curriculum. Okay. So these are the four general process. Ito, yung sinasabi natin, there must be a reference, which is the training regulations or the competency standards. If we don't have yet, if we don't have this, we have to develop this first. Then the second is, of course, there is now the review, a peer review. This is being done by the curriculum development team of the institution. Okay. Then the third one is there is an industry consultation. Okay. That's why it's better that our curriculum development team is composed of the process. The process sinabi ko kanina yung the process, the one that is trained to facilitate curriculum development, and the subject matter experts, which are our trainers, and also from the industry. So that right there and then when they are developing, they're all there. And of course, the packaging. We have some competency-based curriculum exemplars that have been developed. We have been deploying this to the regions actually. And we have also a number at the Asian Tibet Resource Center here at the central office under the CTAN. So in capacitating our regional offices, we have here some the preparatory. We have some preparatory activities. Okay. Okay. This is for actually for test the officials. No. Meaning when they have a competency standards. Okay. The identification of skills priority must be. It would always be good that this must be with the concurrence or with the endorsement of the Regional Technical Education Skills Development Committee. And even the CS, this should also, because at the central office, a national competency standards is promulgated into a TR. But at the regional office, it would be good that the RTSDC should also now review this one and approve this one or endorse this competency standards. So that it will now be a document reference or a paper reference at the regional office or at the regional level. We have the curriculum development proper. These are just the requirements. This is the slide kasi ginamit doon sa handholding which is for TESDA. Okay, so again, this is just another figure that says that in preparing the first process to do is to prepare the requirements. But I think this is for TESDA. The second one is to submit resolution to the RTSDC. That is for TESDA and not for the private TBIs. Ito, organized curriculum development team. This is for the institution. And then, of course, set up and or virtual meetings. Well, this is still for the institution to start now their discussion, the peer discussion on the curriculum that will be developed. So a while ago, this is also part of the process. We have, again, as mentioned in the process, we have to analyze. The first one is for the curriculum development team to analyze the competency standards. Analyze in the sense that they have to look at the different units of competencies, look at the different elements, and then the performance criteria, and this will now be translated into curriculum. If you have seen the TR, it is very easy to develop a curriculum because they just copy what is in the TR. But again, can the institution enhance a curriculum that was submitted during the program registration? The answer is a big yes, because those are the minimum. But can the curriculum, for example, add a new module? Then that's the question, because if they will refer it to the competency standards, the competency standards does not cover that certain task or certain duty or shall we say a unit of competency. Now this is now being translated into curriculum, and I think the figure that I have shown is a process of translation, and there is now the review of the competency-based curriculum. When we say review, there are two parts: the review before its use and the review after its use. Okay, so the review, of course, is before it can. This is just a normal process of development, but the review after implementation is another thing. Okay, who should review the curriculum? It should not now be the institution. It should now be with the partners, because the partners, the end users of our outputs. So that is another, I think it's not a recommendation, innovation, because this should be an institutionalized process of the institutions. This is now to evaluate. That is part of the evaluation, actually, of our curriculum. But validation is part of the development. Okay, so this is now the composition, as I've mentioned earlier, the CBC development team, a process expert. So process experts refers actually to the one who actually achieved the competencies in developing a curriculum. We have actually a unit of a course, competency-based curriculum development, and that is a module under Trainer's Methodology 2. And the other one is a pedagogy content experts. Okay, but for what I've just mentioned of yung TM2. But we are now in the process of reviewing, enhancing the Philippine Tibet Trainers Qualification Framework. And that might go to TM1 later on. Okay, pedagogy or content experts, these are our Tibet trainers, particular those relevant to the qualification, being the qualification or the Tibet program that is being developed with a competency-based curriculum, and the industry experts practitioner of that qualification. Okay, as part of our assistance and a part of a quality process. Na-mention ni Ma'am Patty kanina yung quality process. The central office or TESDA came up with a manual. And this manual for the development of competency-based curriculum for area-based demand-driven Tibet contains all actually the different process. So if you will be guided by this manual, even without actually, well, if you have undergone a forum or a learning session on curriculum development, but if you have missed some, or you can just refer to this manual. So these are the contents actually, the components of training, the competence-based curriculum, contextual learning matrix, development of how to develop a contextual learning matrix, how to develop the modules of instruction, how to finalize a module of instruction. Okay, so nandyan po lahat yan. And these were already downloaded to our regional offices. And that manual contains actually even the flow chart. So itong flow chart, this is a more detailed flow chart compared to the earlier shown. Okay. So again, if we have TR, CS, and no TR, no CS. So nakita nyo dito, pag may TR, review the unit of competency doon sa TR. Pero pag walang TR, formulate your learning outcomes out of the different units of competencies in the CS. Okay, and also the elements. The secure competency standard, okay, secure CS development or TRCS. So ito, pag wala, dapat gagawa kayo, not secure, develop actually. And then you go to that process. Pag meron ng CS, okay, so you formulate there's already the learning outcome. The next is you now go to the reviewing of the unit of competencies. Then go to the next is, this is actually, as I mentioned earlier, this is not new, but it was not a practice. It was not actually a promoted practice among our developers. Okay, yung how to make use of the contextual learning matrix to integrate new developments such as the 21st century skills or the green skills or the STEM. Okay, yung itong STEM kasi may actually in the ILO parlance, International Labour Organization parlance, the 21st century skills is just part of the STEM. Okay. So the next is the prepare modules, prepare design, so forth, so on. So nandyan lahat yung processes. Okay. So this is an example of, this is just the development process cycle time. So we just want to show to you that example, the development of a competency-based curriculum with TR can take you up 12 days, while those with CS 14 days. Why the difference of 2 days? Because of ito yung process. Pag may TR, hindi na po tayo nagpo-formulate ng learning outcomes. Kaya may 2 days siya and the rest is the same. Okay, dito gagawa ka ng contextual learning matrix. So if you will now organize your team, then this is the process that they will undergo. This is actually an schedule. So makikita nyo, more or less, ito yung number of days to develop the CBC. Okay. So yung contextual learning matrix, 3 days. So depende kung gaano ka galing or kaaktibo yung team ninyo. Okay, why are we saying that the contextual learning matrix should be a part of the curriculum development process? Well, actually, this is reference to the test the board resolution number 24. Nakita nyo, 2014 pa ito. So to my test the colleagues, this is 2014 pa. But in the development process here at the central office, we are using this one. We're using the contextual learning matrix to identify the content on science, for example, the knowledge component, the skills component, and the values component. But as far as using it to integrate the particular science requirement, engineering requirement, mathematics requirement, dito tayo hindi masyadong popular among our developers. So that's why we are now reiterating. Okay. Now, this is an example. This is an example of a contextual learning matrix, no? Where we included here the STEM knowledge. So for STEM knowledge kasi, ito yung sa atin, STEM knowledge. Napakalawak kasi yung STEM in the context, sabi ko, konteksto ito ng International Labor Organization. Okay? So, the 21st century skills you can see, that is actually a part of the STEM competencies. Okay? So, we have the 21st century skills, communication, collaboration, teamwork, critical thinking, problem solving, learning and career skills, and so forth and so on. Okay. So we have actually 4 domains of STEM. Dito ko yata, okay. We have the 4 domains of STEM. STEM knowledge, STEM thinking skills, STEM multi-literacy skills, and STEM socio-emotional intelligence. So ito yung 4 na skills. Kung makikita nyo ito, STEM thinking skills, nandiyan na, critical thinking, creative thinking, these are the 21st century skills actually. Okay, so if you will see the social-emotional intelligence skills, we have here actually the work values and ethics, and also communication skills, nandiyan na lahat. Service, leadership and service orientation skills, even in the national citizenship, nandito lahat. Global mindset sa social-emotional intelligence skills. Okay. For multiliteracies, andyan naman yung numeracy, digital, civic, and so forth and so on, occupational health and literacy. Now, the group actually tried to now put this, make use of the contextual learning matrix. Ito ang example ng contextual learning matrix. So we have the learning outcome, we have the assessment criteria. Okay. And then we have here the learning concepts, the STEM knowledge. So makikita niyo yung STEM knowledge in terms of science, nandyan, technology. Wala. For example, in this particular learning outcome, yung assessment criteria or criteria, we don't, 3.1.1, we don't have math here because the math is nandun sa 3.1.2. So, dito nga, kaya dito na yung matetest yung, no, this is now the contribution of the subject matter experts and technology experts. Okay, so we have here the communication. Then the STEM thinking skills, so creative thinking, critical thinking, and so forth and so on. Okay, so ito dinidiscuss ng team ito. There is no such as standard content for all of this one. Okay, now baka hanapin nyo saan yung dalawang domain ng STEM. Actually, these are already, you can see here that there's the communication. So yung communication actually is part of the socio-emotional skills under the STEM skills. Okay, so what is important here also is what are the learning activities. Okay, so susulat natin. So to our trainers, yung mga alam gumawa ng session plan nila, so alam nila ito na what are the different learning learning activities. How would you design your activities to address this one? So it can solve, when in terms of knowledge, we can discuss it. Okay, but in terms of knowing it is not actually achieving the full competency. We all know that. Okay, so we have the three indicators that knowledge must be informed. It must be there must be activities that must enhance the skills, and there must be activities that must demonstrate. Okay, so yun yung IED natin. Dapat nandun yung mga activities na ganun. Then we have the time, but we are not so particular in the time. This is just for organizing. Now, ang comment ko lang dito sa assessment criteria, kulang itong assessment criteria because they just base, ito yung sinasabi ko, it was just based doon sa training regulation. But the assessment criteria must now emphasize or include actually the 21st century skills or the STEM skills. So how do you now assess all this one? So that is what is very important in this particular element. Now, if I am to put it in the training delivery process, the curriculum must see to it that one, the content of learning nandun yun, that is to inform. You can come up with learning activities that would enhance when we were introducing actually that topic. And this topic or this subject must also, or learning outcomes, as we say, learning outcome must also be reflected in the learning in the core activities or the technology in the delivery of the core competencies. Okay, dapat nandun. And even in the development of the different instructional materials like the performance checklist, these 21st century skills or the STEM skills or green skills must also be there as an indicator. Otherwise, there is no evidence or there will be no guide for the trainers to ensure that these are being practiced by the learners in the process. Okay. So, yun lang yung gusto kong emphasize dyan. So, ito, anong nakasulat dito? Integration of 21st century skills. IG and the newly promoted amended CS for basic competencies related with 21st century skills. Ito, ang sinasabi lang ni Ms. Agnes dito ay ito yung mga in our basic competencies, the promulgated TRs for TRs after 2018, they were already enhanced with the 21st century skills. So ito po yung mga 21st century skills na idagdag doon: communication, collaborative teamwork, critical thinking. So meaning to say, our TRs above 2018 are already integrated. The basic competencies are integrated with 21st century skills. That is what this circular is saying. And these are the different 21st century skills that were integrated. So by constructive alignment, these competencies shall be reflected in all types of competencies. Basic, common, and core. In the basic competency, these 21st century or STEM skills or green skills should first, of course, as process of learning, this should be introduced. They should be introduced as fundamental concepts. Okay, but in doing the common and core competencies, this should be practiced. Okay, so it can enhance these fundamental concepts through the application of learning practice exercises to the demonstration of the proper. So just ibig sabihin, the learning activities must also take in consideration the application of these 21st century skills or STEM skills or green skills. Not only focusing on the core skills. Kung titingnan natin yung core skills natin, of course, it's actually directly reflecting, reflecting yung the different, the major tasks or activities or major learning activities. It does not already, kung makikita nyo doon, wala na po doon yung basic competencies, but these basic competencies should be observed and practiced during the learning activities for common and core competencies. And how does the trainer ensure that these are being practiced? This should be now integrated in the different learning instructional materials like the performance checklist, the institutional assessment nila. Dapat meron doon, the assessment criteria should reflect also yung competencies na ito. So ito yung wala ngayon na ating ginagawa. We will be doing some series of trainings. We have already conducted the STEMifying Tibet workshop, 180 plus trainers. I do not know if how far did our regional offices go as far as multiplying those that were trained, so that it will also train the private and the public and including the private trainers on how to integrate the 21st century skills, the STEM skills. Ginagamit ko para yung dalawa kasi hindi pa tayo nagkakaroon ng isang understanding, because on our part, as far as the ILO is concerned, the 21st century skills is covered by the STEM skills. But just for us to understand, let me just use it separately, no? So 21st century skills, STEM skills, the green skills. Dapat alam ng trainer paano nila ini-integrate in the learning activities, and also how to make it appear in the different instructional materials, and including in the institutional assessment. But as far as competency-based curriculum is concerned, we use now the contextual learning matrix in integrating all this. Okay. So here's a mapping that has been done. This is actually a curriculum map with the basic competencies, the basic competencies for the common competencies and the core competencies. So makikita nyo dito, andito na yung ibang module. Kung curriculum, ang pinag-usapan natin dito is module. Okay? So andito yung learning outcomes nila. So dapat nakikita natin dito, asan na dito yung 21st century skills? Asan na dito yung green skills? Okay? So madali, as far as if I am to an evaluator, curriculum evaluator, hahanapin ko yon. It can appear as a standalone module or it can be a part of the learning outcome. Okay? Hindi mo makikita ito sa unit of competency, in the competency standards, but it may appear in the competency standards and standalone, but you can, in the curriculum development, you can distribute that as learning outcome. What is important, it must be there. Okay. Okay. So, ito pa yung curriculum map na ginagamit. We will not be discussing in the details because this is not a competency-based curriculum development course, no, but just an appreciation of the process that we are doing. Okay. The utilization, ang sabi ni Agnes dito, utilization of flexible learning delivery methodologies and pertinent learning materials is essential. So meaning, in the training mode, that the delivery mode that you will be using, since we are now in the new normal, we should reflect there what kind of flexible learning delivery mode will be used. Okay. Will you be using the blended learning? Will we be using the distance learning? Okay. Or will you be using the online learning only? But there is now on our part, we disagree that the online learning can be used in a qualification or a TVET program that is skills intensive and equipment intensive. I am one who is not yet convinced that even if we have virtual realities, no, mga virtual reality learning systems, it cannot still replace an actual equipment, because I'll just be holding, for example, a computer, and then I can see, for example, in my eyeglasses or shades that it will appear, for example, an engine that I will be testing. But even if you are good at that, and you will go to an actual engine, there are many factors that must be considered. The force that will be put into an actual machine compared to that one of holding just an apparatus of an equipment, a computer. How about the values and the values? How about the 5S? You cannot observe that in the virtual realities. The 5S and the occupational health and safety. So, yun. Pero that's why I'm just saying that it's very difficult to deliver a Tibet program that requires equipment through online only. Okay, so the flexible learning delivery mode must be used. Now, sometimes we interchange, ano ba talaga? Flexible learning delivery methodologies or modes? Okay. Those major delivery strategies are called modes. The methodologies actually are, for example, these are actually the other ways of delivering your learning session under that mode. For example, the use of computer, the use of self-check materials. Those are methodologies. Okay? Lecture, those are methodologies. Role plays, those are methodologies. So mali yata yung pagkagamit dito. And pertinent learning materials also is very essential. Okay. So ano ba ang nagawa pinapakita ng CITAD kung anong their activities or initiative at the central office. So we are now providing technical assistance, particularly, of course, what we usually do is, because there's the difficulty of accommodating all private and public TVIs. No, so what we usually do is to develop regional lead facilitators, and the regional lead facilitators will multiply themselves in a region involving the provinces, and it will now be the regional office and provincial offices that will cater to our private institutions as far as this capacity building, capability building programs are concerned. So, ito yung mga sineshare lang naman ng sineshare ni CITAD. May mga assistance sila with Region 4B, Region CAR 1, 3, 5, 7, and 8. These are the hand-holding activities. Okay, so thank you. And of course, the details of curriculum development, I've said, is actually can be taken in a course, like competency-based curriculum course. The capability building and for our trainers on how to integrate this curriculum will be done. We'll be training actually lead trainers, and it will be the lead trainers through institutions that will now cater to our private TVIs. So with that, thank you very much. I think I have consumed my time. Did I work overtime?
No, sir. We are very much eager to hear from you po.
Ganun ba?
Opo, sir.
Okay. Anyway, as I've mentioned, I am not worried with your questions because I have the regional RODs and UTRAS focal persons from the regions who will respond to your questions. But of course, if they need our assistance, then Agnes is here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Director Dave, for showcasing to us how a competency-based curriculum may be developed and how the 21st century skills can be integrated into the said curriculum. So for the information of everyone, one of the functions of the Office of NITSD is to develop guidelines for the maintenance and enhancement of the effective and efficient management and operations of the technical education and skills development system in the training centers and institutions. So can we give Director Dave a resounding applause through your reactions? Meron po tayong applause button. We can click on the applause button po. So thank you very much. At present, Director Dave is receiving 50 buttons and 2 thumbs up, clap hand buttons. Oh, it's going to 64 clap hand buttons, sir. At saka 3 hearts and 6 thumbs up. Thank you very much, sir. So now at this point we are
one heart is
Yes, sir.
heart is enough.
16 na po lahat, sir. And it's counting. Umaabot na ng 22. So at this point, sir, we are now ready po to receive suggestions, comments, queries. So we are now opening po our floor, the screen, to our participants. So you can use po the raise hand button, or you can chat for your queries and we will be happy to read for the questions. So Joseph, meron ba tayong questions from the Facebook Live?
Actually, ma'am, from the Facebook Live, we are sorry to say na na-interrupt po because of our internet connection here in central office. The internet connection is unstable, so that the live, we can't handle the Facebook Live. But we will make it up to them so that we can upload the video of this enhancement session later, so that they can go through it po ulit.
Okay, so thank you for the information, Joseph. And right now, sir, they are requesting for a copy. Yung nakikita po namin sa chat box, they're requesting for a copy of the presentation. And they're saying thank you very much daw po. So for those who are requesting copies po, please ensure po na nakapag-attendance tayo. And we will send the presentation of Director Dave through the registered email po in the attendance sheet. We have one raised hand poster from Ma'am Rosalinda Fernandez. Ma'am, can you unmute po your microphone? And introduce yourself po muna, ma'am.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is Rosalinda Fernandez of Bright Focus Training Center, and I'm very much impressed about the presentation of the first century skills. Now, it says there that character building, creative thinking, and problem solving is a part of the 21st century. Ngayon po, ang problem po is ganito. Saan po natin ito magiging magandang i-practice? Is it sa online po ba? Or sa face-to-face? Kasi parang ang 21st century is a student-centered wherein they learn by doing. So saan po kaya siya pwedeng mas magandang i-practice po? Yun lang po.
Okay, thank you. Maganda po yung tanong. I think this is a good question that will actually guide everyone, guide all of us or remind all of us. Okay. Itong mga 21st century skills, maganda po ito. Sabi nga natin, hindi natin na i-deliver ito if our participants were not informed, and these competencies were not enhanced through activities and also demonstrated. Okay. Yung information, we can just do it through lecture. For example, pag ito tayo nagbibigay ng information, you can do it through lecture. Now, if lecture can be done online, okay? Maganda naman to, yung lecture, you can do it online. Pag sinabi nating online, this can be, ang maganda ng online is yung synchronous din siya, no? Synchronous na nandun kayo lahat because there is now the actual interaction. Okay? But of course, we can do it also asynchronous because this is, the intention is to inform. As kumbaga, STEM knowledge. Ito yung knowledge component. But it should not stop there. Because sabi nga natin, hindi pwedeng pag na-lecture natin or na-discuss natin, na-inform natin ay tama na. We were able to deliver the 21st century skills. It must be practice. So ang magandang practice dito is ini-integrate ng trainer doon sa kanilang common and core competency activities, in the learning activities. Okay? An example, if I'll put it in example, the creativity, no? The creativity aspect. Ako kung magpapagawa ako ng project ko, actually I'm a fan of project-based learning activities and assessment. Okay? So when we ask, for example, the instruction for our learners is to, for example, sa welding lang. Okay, mas maraming babae sa baking na lang. Okay? So sasabihin natin, come up with a baked product using the indigenous products. Tapos isulat niyo lahat yung ingredients, anong measurement, anong process na gagawin nyo. Then in that case, the thinking process of the learner is being challenged rather than what we are usually doing, what our trainers are usually doing, na ibibigay nila yung proseso, gagawin ng estudyante ay ng learner, then after that, if they did not master, repeat the same, then we go to the institutional assessment, they do the same, and we go to the national assessment, they do the same. There's no creative thinking in there. Okay, so my direct, I just tried to elaborate in an actual setting. So my direct answer there, ma'am, is I think I agree with you that these 21st century skills must be practiced during the core and common and core learning activities, meaning these are well observed during face-to-face learning.
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well explained, sir. Maganda po yun. Thank you po. Salamat.
I hope we addressed Director Dave addressed your question. Sir Dave, there's one question more from PO Aurora.
Hi, Sir Dave,
Ma'am.
si Siley po.
Hi, Ma'am Siley.
Po, hindi na ako mag-open ng sir, ng video kasi medyo inappropriate yung location ko po ngayon. Sir, concern ko is one observation I've had with one of our registrants in the PO is when I check their CBC, I actually check, browse lang po. I have observed, maganda itong mga ganitong training din and orientation kasi there are instances when the methodology they are writing in the methodology part will not be coinciding with the way that we wanted to assess the learner. Halimbawa, ang nilagay nilang methodology is discussion, pero ang kanilang assessment methodology would be observation. So, hindi siya nag-a-align. So, yung mga ganitong seminars po is helpful then for our TVIs and TTIs to be oriented that even that on how they should put their methodology and how they should put their assessment methodology should be aligned. Another thing, Sir Dave, and this is a question now, is because we are talking about 21st century skills na po, and this is, as you have said, can be learned better if you are demonstrating, if they are doing the skills. It appears na mas parang maunti na yung ating time allotment for them. Likewise, may tendency na rin po, especially if the school is just registering or a unit of competency, may tendency na mas malaki yung ating basic competency over the core and the common competency that they are going to register because of the time, yung lawak po ng 21st century skills. So how are we going to adjust as well with the number of training hours for the core and the common competencies if the basic competency is already longer than the core and common? Nakamute pa si Sir Dave. Thank you, Sir Dave.
Sir Dave, we can hear you po. I think,
Hello?
yan, okay na po, sir.
Okay na?
Yes po.
Okay, thank you. Well, you're from Region T, Siley, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Do you have your ROD chief for we have the regional office to respond to your question. Okay. No, but let me just help. Let me just help your regional office. I mean regional office because kasama natin sila sa namin sa multiplier ng mga ganitong information. The first thing on the methodologies, that is a correct observation which the provincial office should look into, because the tendency of institution, if we have competency exemplars, right? Exemplars, or we have the training regulation, what is there? They just copy the methodologies. No, the curriculum should reflect the methodologies that they are, the methodologies that you are using. Okay, hindi dapat, but they can include in there the options, pero dapat option na ginagawa. Pero kung hindi practical at hindi dapat, walang resources yung institution sa paggawa ng ganong methodology, wag nang isulat. Pero yun nga ang nangyayari. But of course, that can be done during your compliance, that can be seen during your compliance audit. Now, the other one is to evaluate if for purposes of registration by our TBIs, the provincial office, does the provincial office have the capacity to look into the curriculum? Okay, in terms of content, not necessarily that we need, for example, but at least the process, the content, the structure, the nomenclature, we should be good at this. Okay, now let's go to your question on the time for 21st century skills. Okay. Nandun kasi sa TR, may time additional siya, right? Time additional siya. Ang problema is the time that was added in the nominal duration enough to deliver the 21st century skills. Okay. As far as the purpose to inform, or to discuss these basic competencies, I think it is enough. But if we are looking into the time to integrate, to demonstrate these 21st century skills at the common and core, there is no need of additional time. Because as I've mentioned earlier, how I respond to the first question is it should be contextualized in the learning activities of common and core. An example, yes, binigyan ko kayo nga na example yun sa baking, for example, no? Sa baking. Dapat kasi ang instructions, the trainers should learn now, they should have that pedagogy, of, they have to plan their learning activities, that when they give instruction to the learners in doing those learning activities like the baking process, naka-integrate na doon yung creativity, na-challenge yung creativity ng bata, naka-challenge yung occupational health and safety. Okay? Pagkatapos, I think even in the entrepreneurship, you can even integrate that by, for example, trying to come up with listing their supplies and materials, costing their supplies and materials. Wala yon doon sa core. Pero i-integrate na natin yon, kumbaga, lalaruin na ni trainer para yung bata, yung learner, mata-challenge, magagawa niya. So without knowing, they are already practicing 21st century skills. Diba? Like green skills, okay? How do we integrate green skills? Do you need another time? No, you don't need. But train them to maintain 5S and train them to come up with, for example, how to use their waste materials. Come up with a project of using their waste materials. That is already green skills. Diba? Learning how to maintaining occupational health and safety with waste segregation. Pag na-train yung mga bata na ganon, learners natin, that is already integrating green skills without coming up with a separate time for green skills. I hope I address your concern, Siley, no? So, actually, yun ang sabi ko, let's not take it in the competency standard. It is very literal that the 21st century skills are very categorical there pagkatapos may time. But in the curriculum, kaya nga ang trainer dapat 21st century din. Di ba? The pedagogy of the trainer should always be continually developed. They cannot teach what they cannot do. Sinasabi natin, di ba? So, yun. The core of our discussion, Siley, is this should be integrated in the different common and core activities. While in the basic competency, you can actually discuss this. You can integrate discussing it, or you can discuss it separately. So in that case, the indicator of inform, enhance, and demonstrate is achieved. And we are sure that the output of this is a learner that has achieved the learning outcome for the core, for that qualification included with, including yung 21st century skills nila. I hope I sound, my response relates to your question, Siley. Thank you.
Yes, sir, very much. That somehow made sense why there is shorter time. But then it will be added up to na lang po. In practice na lang siya.
Okay, I'd like to add to that, no? Ang practice natin kasi, you know, the reason why Singapore is not adopting the competency base, it is always a contextualized competency base or hybrid, because competency base is very difficult. A 99% grade is not actually a passing grade if we will be ideal with competency based, because you should all pass all the competencies. So my point here, that's why I mentioned this, is because if we see that a learner after the nominal duration may kakulangan pa, then let us give them a little time to complete a day, a 2, a 3. But I know the problem again. Kasi pag i-relate natin sa scholarship, baka maghihingi siya ng allowance, no? But that's besides the point. If we want our graduate really competent, and it needs 2 days for them still to work overtime, then give the 2 overtime. Because at the end, sabi nga natin, in a competitive world, in a neutral market, quality is our edge. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sir Dave. Meron pa pong naka-raise ng hand. Si Mr. J.R. Suarez, sir.
Hello po, sir. Good afternoon. This is JR of Davao de Oro. Sir, I don't know if this is just a suggestion, sir. Kasi ang dami na hong mga, aside from the training regulation, ang dami na hong kasing ibang mga papers. For example, dati yung GAD, and then, actually ngayon GAD, and then ito na naman yung 21st century, and then iba-ibang paper. Siguro, sir, much better siguro, sir, for me, na yung mga TR ng different qualifications, lahat ng qualifications, if may integration doon ng kung anong gustong ipadagdag ng TESDA, is siguro for me dapat mailagay na rin din doon. So kung maganda sana for me na i-amend yung TR, tsaka i-include na doon yung gustong ipa-include ng TESDA, kasi maraming kasi sir, maraming mga confusions na nangyari from different answers from different sources. So kesyo pag nung dating, alam mo yun sir, yung maraming explanation tapos iba-iba yung sinasabi ng iba-ibang tao. So for me, siguro yung training regulation lang talaga, doon na talaga siya emerge. Isahin na lang yun siya lahat. Yun na po yung point ko, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Actually, as I mentioned earlier, yung mga TRs natin na up 2018, na-repromulgate ng mga yon, na-integrate na yung 21st century skills. Okay? Pero yung mga below 2018, kasi hindi sila na subject for review, yon yung mga wala pa. And actually, this is not, wala pang issuance sa field as to what will we do with those registered programs na yung TR niya ay below 2018. Okay, so we are still discussing that with Qualification Certification Standards Office, Qualification Standards Office, tama, with Director Jojo. Actually, that was one of our discussion last week because how will we integrate that? Yung 2018 kasi hindi pa na-integrate sa kanilang TR, sa CS. Okay? So, on our part, sa curriculum, we cannot just integrate in our curriculum, sabi namin, kung hindi natin integrate sa CS. So, anyway, yun lang. Kung ang parang, kasi wala namang advisory sa region, sa TBIs on this. Kung yung mga below 2018, as is pa rin yun. Kasi wala pa naman tayong sinabi na they have now to re-register kasi wala pa hang TR. So they were not required to re-register. Now, but let me now respond just for us to appreciate the 21st century skills. Why is it important that we have now to include the 21st century skills? The reason is we are now in the 4th industrial revolution. Diba? So, later on, actually, sa ibang countries, advanced countries, 5th industrial revolution. What differs? Pag sinabi natin kasi yung 2nd industrial revolution, ang mga systems process natin ay run by electricity, electronics, no? Pag third industrial revolution, automated yung mga processes nila. So sa trabaho, medyo computer ang inyong gagamitin at sa 4th industrial revolution, no? So ang gumagawa na ngayon robotics, pagkatapos robotics, robots, but these are manned by workers, okay? And also ang analysis dito is the use of data analytics, big data. So ibig sabihin, yun yung two major characteristic ng 4th Industrial Revolution. So kung tayo ay patutungo doon, ito yung sinasabi natin, hindi naman lahat ng services will be automated. There are still other, but ang digital skills, digitalization ay nandyan na yan eh. So ibig sabihin, mas yung development of a knowledge worker ay mas kailangan ngayon. Kasi hindi purely na conventional equipments later ang gagamitin natin. Okay? Kaya sabi nga nila, ibig bang sabihin pag trainer, ang trainer ay pag sa 4th Industrial Revolution, pag hindi alam ng trainer na lahat ng pati pagtuturo ay robot na rin or automated na rin? Ang sagot ay hindi. Hindi marireplace ang trainer. Ang marireplace na trainer lang ay yung walang digital skills. Ibig sabihin, kasi hindi siya makakahabol. So, that's how I relate na kailangan natin na ituturo ngayon sa ating mga learner yung 21st century skills. Kasi dapat yung knowledge nila ay dapat tataas. Dapat creative na sila kasi yun yung hinahanap ngayon ng mga industries. Okay? So yun, yung sinabi mong TR, the 2018 na dinedevelop, nandun na po 21st century skills. Yung 2018, pag mga na-register na programs, hindi pa naman require na i-register ito kasi wala pa siyang TR na bago na nandun yung 21st century skills. So kung ako, of course, kung registered sila, the program will still go on as is. Until such time that there is now a developed CS and a promulgated PR to that effect.
Thank you very much, Sir Dave, for explaining to us both the need to integrate the 21st century skills and for answering the questions of our participants. Sir Dave, can we entertain two more po?
Yeah, thank you for saying two more.
Okay. So Dave, we have one from Ma'am Susana. She is raising her hand. Ma'am Susana Tandok, you are recognized, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon po, sir, from Maxima Region 1 po. So, yes, sir.
Imbag na malim nyo ako.
Imbag malam niyo, sir. Nagpapasalamat po kami sa Region 1 dahil po sa mga ganitong training. At least po na-update po kami, na-upgrade po kami. Ang itatanong ko lang, sir, during the compliance audit po kasi namin, nagpa-findings po kami na yung sa 21st century na basic competencies po. So, Ang mga CTPRs po namin ay issued 2015. Ang nangyayari po kasi, nagpo-findings kasi kami, hinahanapan po kami nung 21st century basic competencies, which is not, kunwari po, dati kasi ang mga basic competencies natin is, ang nominal duration lang po is 18 hours. So ano po ba yung maganda namin gawin para, kailangan po ba talagang integrate na namin dun sa ano, kasi sa CTPR po kasi nakalagay po yung nominal duration dati. So, yun yung nagiging problema namin kasi naka-findings po kami pagdating po dun sa CBC namin, sir. Yun
Okay,
lang po, sir.
okay, ganito. I'll take note of your question, and actually this is a matter to be discussed with tatlo to. The certification office, the qualification standards office, and also an ITASD. Kasi ang sa akin kasi is, if you look into the promulgated TRs na 2018, nagdagdag sila ng nominal duration, nadagdagan yung nominal duration because of the 21st century skills. Eh yung TR nyo na 2015 ay wala siyang, may nominal duration na sinusunod. Di ba? Kung idadagdag nyo yung sinasabi natin, idadagdag nyo yung 21st century skills in your curriculum na hindi naman na-update ang competency standards without adding nominal duration, it will not, ibig sabihin, ibang si standard niya kasi bakit doon sa 2018 and above may additional time, bakit dito sa baba may walang additional time. Okay? So yun yung so I took note of this one and then we will discuss this, and this is a good question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you po for clarification po, Mas. Salamat po, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Sir Dave, for that assurance.
Last
So
one.
for our, yes, sir, as promised po, for our last question, sir, we will be reading one question from the chat box. This is from Region 4, DBC, Sir George Brian Arrieta. The question is, does the proper utilization of work readiness modules geared towards the implementation of 21st century skills will be discussed in this webinar? So yung
okay.
work readiness.
Yeah, I think this will not be discussed in this webinar because that will be too technical for the participants. I look at, of course, the profile of the participants, and as I've always, ako naging administrator din. Administrators, owners of schools or heads of schools need not to know the deep technical processes, because of course they have their curriculum developers, they have their trainers, no? But at least an appreciation of the process would at least lead them to, of course, motivate, encourage, require, and then monitor and control, no? So hindi madidiscuss. But the work readiness module, actually that is a project, our project with USAID, ILO. I don't know if it is USAID or ILO. I forgot. No. This is actually ganon yung process nun, dapat ganon yun yung sinasabi ko na nai-integrate. Ganon yung pag-integrate natin. We do not teach it academic separately as a subject matter. Okay? We can discuss it, but should always be integrated in the other contents, and particularly in the different activities for common and core competencies. Okay. So ito lang po yung in my last words here is, of course, the secret here, or the factor here is our trainers. If they will not be trained to do this, they will usually go do the conventional, the usual thing that they do, and there will be no innovation. Okay, so we do this is part of the innovation in our curriculum, and you can even, actually our institutions are not prohibited to enhance activities there, to add equipments and tools, no, and to come up with different modality learning modes like role plays or co-production you are not prohibited so long as it will be reflected in your curriculum, and that is what we call curriculum innovation. The other important thing here is let us evaluate our curriculum. When we evaluate curriculum, it should not be us that should be evaluating our curriculum. We should now involve our industry partners because they are the one who will say, alam nyo yung training nyo, napaka kulang ang kanilang 21st century skills eh. Yung soft skills nila ang kulang eh. Dapat i-strengthen nyo. Sila yung magsasabi nun kasi they are the end user of our outputs, no? So, curriculum development should include your industry partners. This is the reason why for TESDA technology institutions, meron sila kasing TESDA TTI Advisory Council. Now, in the private sector, in the higher education, or in the old term before, they have their school board. Ano? So, kung naman ito'y an institution na okay, not the private TBIs, you can actually involve your private industry partners for the evaluation of the curriculum. And surely they will be inputting some improvement, and that is what we call curriculum innovation. Okay, and in the delivery, trainer talaga ang dapat. Tingnan natin, i-train natin sila. Kasi kahit maganda yung curriculum, kung hindi nila alam mag-integrate, ay wala. Ang kon lang is mag-integrate. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Sir Dave. So, Sir George, hope that answer for your question. According to Sir Dave, our trainer, hindi na po natin isasama yan kasi our trainer has the freedom to innovate and then to integrate nga po. And it's so much technical for this audience. So, at this point, sir, we would like to show our appreciation to our resource person, of course. Sir Joseph.
We would like to thank our resource speaker for the knowledge imparted to us this afternoon, ED Dave. As a gesture of our appreciation to our resource person for today, we would like to award this certificate of appreciation. Allow us to read the citation. Certification Office awards this certificate of appreciation to Executive Director David B. Bongalion, Executive Director of National Institute for Technical Education and Skills Development, NITESD, in grateful recognition of his invaluable knowledge and expertise on the topic, developing competency-based curriculum with integration of 21st century skills. During the first Quality TVET Enhancement Session 2022, conducted on July 28, 2022, given this 28th day of July 22, signed by our Executive Director of the Certification Office, Maria Susan P. De La Rama.
And to award our certificate of appreciation, we have our Executive Director, Ma'am Patty De La Rama.
Thank you very much, Mr. NITSD. More to come.
Yeah, welcome po, ma'am.
Picture po,
Thank you,
ma'am.
thank you.
We'll have our photo opportunity po. Ma'am Patty, pa-open lang po yung camera for the photo op. Thank you po.
1, 2, 3, smile. Okay na po.
Thank you.
Thank you po, Sir Dave. And we have actually taken note po of the questions from the chat box. And to borrow nga po the words of our resource person, our POs, the provincial directors, and the focals are experts po. So we will refer those questions that can be addressed po by our provincial offices and regional offices. So what's next, Joseph? Joseph,
Sorry. To close us, we would like to call in our Assistant Executive Director of the Certification Office. She is a mother of 3 and the wife of a retired TESDAN. She is a psychologist by profession and has rose from the ranks in TESDA. Without much ado, a round of applause to Assistant Executive Director Janet M. Abasolo.
On behalf of our Assistant Executive Director, Ma'am Janet, I will be reading po her closing message to DDG Bertiz, DDG for TSD Operations, to our Executive Directors, Ma'am Patty Dilarama and Sir Dave Bungalion, the administrators from different public and private technical vocational institutions, presidents and members of Tibet associations, provincial directors, ROD chiefs, Ultras Focals, TESDA officials and personnel, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. We have heard from our resource person the competitive edge that the Tibet institutions need to survive in a neutral market. To borrow the words of Director Patty and Director Dave, quality control, quality assurance, and quality enhancement should be our driving purpose towards the delivery and operations of training. Earlier, Director Patty explained why we held this enhancement session. And we hope that after hearing from Director Dave, we would be able to enhance our curriculum in your respective institutions. During CO cares and even in Tibet consultations, we often receive feedback from the institutions to provide a curriculum exemplar. So this is our response to your request for the exemplars. Instead of spoon feeding the institutions, we are capacitating you to develop your own curriculum. And through this session, we have learned that Tibet providers shall provide contextual learning matrix to accompany their curricula. We have also known that in the integration of the 21st century skills in our curricula, we need the contextual learning matrix that should reflect the STEM, encompassing the concepts and context of the 21st century skills. We have also heard of the concept from our resource person, the concept of constructive alignment, which means that the 21st century skills may be adopted as part of the competency. Further, in the development of your curriculum, please consider the adoption of flexible learning delivery. Our resource person has presented which flexible learning delivery is appropriate for each learning outcome. So in closing, we at the certification office with our executive director is hopeful that you will practice what you have learned today in the quality enhancement of your curriculum. As what Edith Dave told us, our provincial directors and PO staff are considered experts in this concern and can assist you in the development of your curriculum. As our parting words, let us practice what we have learned today. We are now informed, so let us enhance and integrate, because sabi nga ng resource person natin, in this competitive and neutral world, quality is our edge. Thank you very much and mabuhay po tayong lahat. So that message is from Assistant Executive Director in the Certification Office, Ma'am Janet Abasolo.
We would like to hear from all of you. Kindly fill up our evaluation form so that you can have your e-certificates. Kindly fill out it through the link in the chat box, which is also flashed on the screen. E-certificates will be sent to your respective emails upon submission of the evaluation form. For all your questions addressed to TESDA, we have taken note of it and we will respond to all of this accordingly. And to all po na nagkaroon po kami ng internet connection interruption, we will try to upload the recording of this Zoom enhancement session later. Once again, thank you and keep safe, everyone.
Walang sound.
To address the needs of our labor force, provide the skills that open doors, excellence in world-class work, access to success for everyone, with the power of information, proper values and education, to the hands that build the nation, doing it the test away. Rain or shine, we keep alive the hopes and dreams of workers throughout this land. Doing the best we can, committed we make our stand, truly dedicated to the task at hand. With the power of information, proper values and education, to the hands that build the nation, doing it the test away. To the hands that build the nation, more power to the test away. Long live the test away. All united we answer the test, the call.
To all the participants, as you finish the evaluation form, you can leave the Zoom. Thank you.
We strive to address the needs of our labor force, provide the skills that open doors, excellence in world-class work, access to success for everyone, with the power of information, proper values and education, to the hands that build the nation, doing it the test away. Rain or shine, we keep alive the hopes and dreams of workers throughout this land. Doing the best we can, committed we make our stand.